Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gonçalo Antunes. I'm a fast-track program manager for the Dynamics 365 product group. This is my teammate, Pedro.
Hey. Hello, so my name is Pedro. I'm a colleague of Gonçalo. So I'm a senior fast-track program manager for Dynamics 365 team.
Whoops.
Sorry
about that. We're here today to talk to you about, let me just move to the agenda. It's a very specific session, so you might have seen already and heard a lot in the past few days and perhaps months around IoT and the good buzz around the Internet of Things and bringing that to the value of your business. That's actually our first section in the agenda today, but very specific that has to do with our product, Dynamics 365. So perhaps the first question, just before we go through the rest of the agenda, just to kind of open up the discussion. How many of you have or will have soon a Dynamics 365 implementation? Good, okay. And of those, how many of you have heard of connected field services? Good, okay, brilliant. Oh, that's a good starting point. Thank you. Thanks for sharing for raising your hand there. So number one, or that first part will be on the business reasons, or what would you think of bringing IoT into your business? And in this case, why would you bring IoT data or telemetry or whatever you would need into your Dynamics 365 implementation? And in specific, why would you care or be interested in using connected field services? So this is not really specific on implementing connected field services, but definitely will show you the value of using connected field services out of the box as is. On top of that, field service itself, right, as well. But more than that, so we're going to cover a very specific scenario. Let's call it an extended scenario or a sample scenario of how could you, in this case of ours, build up a smart building, sensors, all sorts of devices, and bring that and set up that into your Dynamics 365 implementation, and then how could you take advantage of that and act and manage the whole solution. The second session, the part there on, we're going to go through all the different pieces of the setup, show you really in live demo the setup of connected field services, what does it bring, how is it configured initially, and how can you go and do your own configuration and setup as we did, which will end up like the last part on the end-to-end scenario that will actually show how we put these little devices working, connecting with Azure IoT, all the technology behind it, and ending up in Dynamics 365 and in actually a customer-facing or a user-facing portal that we also created for the purpose. And then we'll have 10 to 15 minutes at the very end for some Q&A. So basically, objectives and takeaways, I kind of covered that already, but more than just showing you what can you take out of connected field services, what can you do with, in this case, building a smart building, bringing that data and implementation add-on, let's call it that way, into your Dynamics 365 solution. But more than that, be inspired, go beyond, above and beyond what's out of the box, and create that intelligent edge, just like Satya Nadella explained on the keynote on Monday, if you had the chance to attend. If you haven't, the recording is out there. And bring all that into your business and really gain a lot of value, which is basically what we're here. So we're here for in terms of showing you what can you take out of this. Okay. So with no further ado, I'll just hand it over to Pedro. Go ahead, Pedro.
Yeah. So thank you, Gonçalo. So I will start with the business reasons. So why did we start with this project to implement IoT and connected field services? We will not go through basically what is behind IoT, the patterns, the architecture of IoT. So there are a lot of sessions during Ignite that will cover this part. So we want just to focus on the business reasons behind why we started with this project. and also providing some key principles that we follow throughout this journey that we took. So basically, we just have a simple slide just to explain the business reason. And the first is this one with a quote from Satya, just explaining how our business is changing and how can IoT take part in the business revolution that we are seeing today. So basically, according with Satya, and we pick up this quote to just explain that, all of the businesses are changing, right? So today we have a lot of technology that we can take use, and we will go through that and explain how we use it. And it's not only, for instance, you may already have seen some business cases like Rolls-Royce and how they are implementing, so something very big, very large, but we also want to share with you what you can do and start with simple things. And then we have this cycle that is also a complement on what Satya shared, that is how can IoT help with capitalizing and helping your businesses to transform. And basically we have three simple things. Connect your things, and we will provide those examples on how you can connect using devices, and that can depend on your business. And then turn data into insights, and finally transform your business with all of these. So this is basically a cycle where you can make use of this technology, and then to transform your business and have some kind of capitalization on it. So basically this is the theoretical part, and then we have, regarding the stack, the Azure stack, we split it into groups that will help us explain what we did. And basically this slide here you will see throughout the presentation. And here the main idea, and this is a key principle that we have. It's not about just collecting data and using telemetry. It's also how we can use that data to gain some value with it, right? We have an example like, for instance, we see a lot, and even in this building, we see a lot of vending machines. And basically, this is something that happened for several years, that those machines can capture how many clicks the user used or clicked. And the machines itself are created to gather that data, right? But right now, with all of this technology that we have, we can use that data and transform it into value, right? So we can see what are the options that the users are, or the persons are looking at the most, right? So maybe we can restock the machines with those options. Those are the ones that go out first, instead of the other ones that just stay there. Also, we can send that information to our, for instance, to our office and have some information around it. When should I go and restock that machine? So before we used to have people that would go to those machines every week or every month to just restock it and check what was missing, right? So right now, with all of this information and using IoT, using the technology, we can actually have some value with that information. So that's the examples that we want to provide, and also with this usage that we will explain to help you understanding how you can pick up this data that you can already collect and transform into value for your business. So basically, just to explain how we started, and this is how we call it, so Smart Office Application, or SOFIA. And this started when we changed from the main office back in Lisbon, where we are based, to a new office. So, and with this change, we saw a lot of opportunities because things wouldn't, from the start, they weren't working as we wished. So we started seeing some things that we can enhance. And for instance, every time that we discuss with someone about what we are trying to achieve, we have more ideas, right? And this is something that we want to share with you and also inspire you to use it, if not for yourselves, maybe for your customers. So basically, one of the things that we saw, and because we moved to a new office, we didn't have the facilities team there all the time. So the supplies were missing, right? Like coffee. And for a Portuguese person, if the coffee is missing, that's a big problem. And that's something that we have in common with Americans as well. So the other thing is how to transform that data into insights And then we saw opportunities like in the area of lighting and energy use, comfort, and all of that. So one of the things that we have in our office is that we have devices for each AC device, or we have switches for each AC device. And that's a big problem because, for instance, if I go to the office and I have a coat or I have warmer clothes, maybe I don't need to have the AC set to a lower temperature. But if my colleague goes with a t-shirt, maybe he will set the AC to a lower level. And that's a big problem because then we have an AC making hot and the other one is making a lot of cold, and we are not comfortable in the office, right? So that's a big opportunity. And you'll see in the demo part that that is something that we are collecting with these devices. And actually then we have, right now we cannot apply this, but if or when we will have a new office where everyone can fit it in, then probably we can try to implement all of these features that we are developing. And one of the goals would be to set the temperature for the room, right? So that everyone has a comfortable environment where they can work and help everyone with this. And this is something that we felt here as well, right? This is here in Orlando, this is the total opposite as in Portugal. So in Portugal, we wear coats in the street, and in the office, we wear t-shirts. So we learned that in Orlando, it's totally the opposite. So we wear coats inside, and in the street, we have t-shirts. So, and I think that is a big problem. So for instance, I have a sore throat, and also Gonçalo, because at least in the expo, it's very cold, right? So we need to wear a coat. Why is that? We are not capturing that data, right? If we could capture that data and measure it, maybe we could set the temperature to a suitable temperature for everyone, right? And say, okay, 22 degrees Celsius, sorry, I don't speak Fahrenheit, but 22 degrees Celsius, maybe it's a suitable temperature for everyone. So we don't need to wear coats inside. So that's one of the goals that we have with these devices that we are spreading through our office. So all of these gaps that we saw, they inspire us to make something out of the technology that we have today available, right? So we are trying to capture data and then transform into value, something that we can use, okay? So stuff like we've seen and that we discussed throughout these presentations that we've did, like for instance, security or even energy use. So right now, everyone leaves the offices and the lights are still on. Why is that? Why can't we have like a counter that will count whoever is in the office? And if no one is in the office and it's after working hours, why can we turn off the energy? No one is using. So that's also something that we are trying to capture. And all of these ideas that are coming, we are trying to implement them in this smart office application. So basically, this is just the introduction. And then during our journey, so we split the Azure stack into these groups. And these groups, you'll see them throughout the presentation. So basically, things, connectivity, data, analytics, and actions. And so our journey, just not speaking in terms of technology right now, or at least on Azure and IoT. So they started with these groups. And for instance, the things are what we want or how we can capture. So for instance, temperature, lighting, noise level, we can capture those with devices, right? And we have here these examples, and we have a live one there that we will show in more detail. But those are the devices that we can use today. They are available. They are not that expensive right now. So those are the options that everyone can use to capture information. And then connectivity. So right now, everyone is connected, right? You have cell phones, you are always connected, you can always see your emails, so we can make use of that. In our office, we have Wi-Fi, so that is not a problem today. It was in the past, but not today. So we can use that. That is also available. And then we have IoT or Azure that will help us sending that information and collecting, right? We don't need to have a server today in our office just to collect that information. That is something that is available with Azure, and we can configure it just by clicking buttons. We don't have to have a lot of knowledge in that area to set it up. So basically, that is something that is also available. We can use it. Then in terms of data, we need to collect it and we need to store it, right? So that is the other thing that we need to do. We need to store that data to have some knowledge and to transform it in value and to have analytics that we can provide to stakeholders and to ourselves as well. So that is also something that we need to take in consideration. And I was just talking ahead, but this is the part where we need to transform the data into insights and have analytics so that we can understand what is happening, right? Then in the end, we have the actions. And this is the part where we have the line of business application. So today, you can implement Azure. That is available. You can use IoT, no problem with it. But we have, and we are from the Dynamics 365 team, we have something that is called Connected Field Service that will set up all of the structure that you need in IoT, and you can configure it just by clicking the buttons. Like I was saying, you don't need to have a lot of knowledge. And then you can have the outputs or the actions, right? So we can capture a lot of information and then have or detect, troubleshoot, and resolve issues early, fix issues the first time, and also integrate. And for instance, the examples that we will provide would be if we detect a temperature that is not normal, in the end we can create a work item for someone to go and fix the issue, right? So this is where we have the line of business application, in this case, Dynamics 365 and the connected field services. So basically this was what we thought about it when we started to discuss about this journey and how we could start thinking about all of the pieces that we would need to put together. Then our value, right? So we thought about all of the process that we would need to go through. But like I mentioned before, we need to transform the data into value, right? So we need to think about the value. We would not just do this and collect data for nothing, right? So we need to have our value. And our value is what we have here. So efficient processes, higher productivity, and one of the things is when people are not comfortable in the workplace, they will not have a high productivity, right? So that is something that we also need to improve, or we can improve. Reduce costs, like with energy, the example that I gave. So if we turn off the lights when no one is in the office, so we can reduce costs. Asset utilization. So in this case, you can make use of tracking of items to understand where they are. So if you need to fix them, you know where they are located. So that is also something that we see as a value. Then we have the key benefits. So reduce downtime. In our case, that doesn't apply much, but this is something that you can get with by implementing something like this. You can implement maybe for yourselves or for your customers, like we were mentioning from the start. But basically, this is something that you can get out of the connected field services and field service for Dynamics 365, where you can set the actions according with the information that you capture. In the end, so we have here the patterns, the IoT patterns, and basically you see what the kind of things that we covered with IoT. So we have devices, we have Event Hub to collect all of the data that we are sending, the telemetry. We have stream analytics, then we have SQL databases, and then we'll see at the very end Microsoft Dynamics as the line of business application. We'll have a portal that we will show as well. That will be the presentation for the users, and you see their websites, mobile devices that can be used on all of those devices. So we saw that IoT will fit the purpose, and that Azure will fit the purpose of our needs. And also, we have here the reference to the architecture where we can see the same thing. So we have the device connectivities, and then we have the data processing with the stream analytics, and finally the presentation with the portal that we will show, and also with the line of business application that is Dynamics 365. So we put together our needs, our value, and then we saw in Azure and IoT a fit for our needs as well. And basically, this is the business reasons behind why we start with this project and why we decide to use IoT and Azure.
you, Pedro. Still on?
Yeah, it's on.
Yeah, thank you, Pedro. Yeah, and more than that, I mean, like I said in the beginning, how can you take the out-of-the-box connected field services solution as a starting point and make such a setup? In this example of ours, it was just a simple setup in the office, collecting telemetry, comfort levels, noise, temperature, and all that. But in your scenario, it could be something to do with actual real machines in the production line or whatever, right? You could hook that up with connected field services as well, and manage, read, act, whatever you want to set up with the starting point of connected field services. Not necessarily that you need to go and implement the whole field services solution, but just making use of the connected field services add-on, you're already 2 or 3 steps ahead of building the whole solution on top of that, right? So let's start kind of showing a little bit more of what we have. Okay, just a second here. Yeah. So putting some color on what Pedro just said and all those pieces in the stack there. Connected, let's say, things, devices, switches, sensors, such as these one in here. So in that case, the picture and these ones here are basically Raspberry Pis with a sensor hat that reads temperature and pressure and humidity. As an example, Azure as a core, the core of the solution, and connected field services also deploys a few services and solutions in Azure that actually complement or make the whole thing work together. And then on top of that, naturally, there will be a solution named Connected Field Services add-on installed in Dynamics 365, and just below you have a SQL Server database in Azure and Power BI. I mean, don't take us wrong, but this is really about inspiring you and opening the horizons in terms of, hey, the technology is out there, devices are out there, you have needs, you have technology in place and ready to be used, go ahead and implement it. It is that easy, okay? That's the main purpose of today's session. In terms of devices, like I said, you can have higher-end devices, low-powered, high processing, low processing, all sorts of devices and sensors and switches and actuators in place. It's really up to you to define what's best, and if they are powerful enough, then perhaps the devices can connect with Azure IoT Hub directly. If they're not that powerful, then there will be there are tools and there's the IoT device gateway that can allow you to have let's say a area gateway that will collect data from the low power or low processing devices and then send them all up to Azure. Hardware or software, our example was with our technology, let's call it that way, a Raspberry Pi running Windows 10 IoT Core, application developed in C#, XAML, that I'm going to show to you in a few moments. You can have headless or headed apps. In our case, it's a headed app with a user interface, touch screen in that device. At the very end, just as a side note, you can all come and you can play with it and you can have a look. And we'll be happy to discuss what we've done. And then naturally, like I said, device twins and gateways and sensors and all sorts of things you can set up. It's really up to you to tell what can be done. On top of that, so in our specific case, so this is a screenshot of the application running there. It's a headed app, like I said, it starts up and runs on that Windows IoT core device, reading sensors out of that hat inside the box there. It's communicating with Azure IoT, but it also has an end user interface, as you can see, and then the screen is touch screen, so you can actually interact with it somehow. In our case, I'll go through it very briefly, but in our case, we made it for the purpose of the demo as well and the scenario, and kind of, like I said, to inspire you in making you go the next step. We made it in such a way that we work bidirectionally. So it's not only that the device is sending telemetry, let's call it that way, to Azure and to CRM in the end, but also we can communicate with the device. So we can, from CRM, trigger a message to be sent down to the device, such as, in our case, set the AC temperature or set the maximum temperature the room should achieve before actually we can do something with it. And that do something is basically the action that Pedro was talking about. Perhaps if temperature goes above a certain threshold, we may call the technician and email him or create a work order for him to go on site and fix it, okay? And, oh, sorry, maybe we could just go back a moment. Sorry about that. Yeah. And, yeah, well, basically here, let me switch to my machine and start doing some stuff. It's on, yeah. So, yeah, I will start with that. So I'm not doing live debugging on that device yet, but this is something that you can definitely do. But as an example, and I'll go through I won't go through the whole code, I promise. I don't want to kill you with C#. But basically, as simple as that, you can, I mean, with 300, 400 lines of code in our example, perhaps some of them are really useless and comments, as you can see, and I've been playing with that. But basically, there's a piece of code that is basically Azure IoT Hub, send message, receive message. It's already there. You just deploy it. You don't need to code it all. I just need to put a connection string to the device, and that's it. Then down, if you go to the actual application running, you can definitely, let me just move to the bottom, and you can make use of some libraries, and you can read your temperatures out of your sensors, and then at a certain point, you can create a, let's say, a JSON structure, a message, and then send it to Azure. So as simple as that. I won't go through the whole thing, but basically, if I would run this locally, because I've developed it locally in my machine, and that's actually one of the good things about developing with these little devices and Raspberry Pis, is that you can actually run a Windows Universal app, and it will run in your tablet, in your Windows 10 device, or in your laptop directly. So in this case, it's just, I just brought it up for you to show to you, but basically, it won't read any sensors, because I don't have any sensors in my machine. But as you can see, it powers up and it requests immediately the parameters from the server. So in this case, as an example, we've got this device, little device in one room. It boots up. The first thing it's going to do is that ask the server, okay, what are the temperature parameters for the room? Give them to me. Sends the message to Azure IoT Hub. A message goes all the way through, ends up in CRM. CRM triggers it back and sends the parameters back to the device, and they are set. Okay, that's basically the simple flow. It takes a few seconds, or eventually the first call will take a little while. But it's all around. It works on top of Azure IoT Hub and the connected field services solution that we're going to show you just in a moment. Okay, I'm going to stop that for a while, and I'm just going to move back to that's number 1, right? 5. Sorry. Back to the presentation. And this is, again, I'll show it to you in a while as well, but as simple as that. So in our case, the app running there just had two threads. So one for, let's say, reading sensor data, send them to Azure, update the UI. The second one is just waiting for messages. So checking if there are any messages for that device, landing in the Azure IoT Hub, and then process the command and act upon it. So basically that's it. So I don't want to go through much in detail in terms of code there, but perhaps I'll just move again now and try to make it a little more dynamic. And in terms of connectivity, like I said, if I just log on to Azure, to my Azure portal, you see a bunch of resources already, and I'll go through them very briefly. But in general terms, the Connected Field Services solution will immediately, actually, let me start with that. So the Connected Field Services solution is hosted in the app source for Microsoft.com. So actually, let me start over, and I'll just show it to you in a moment. appsource.microsoft.com. And very briefly, yeah, and if you just look for connected field service, here we go. Yeah. So this is not the, like I said, the full field services solution that contains resource scheduling and all that. This is not it, right? So this is just the add-on for connected field service, which means that this is the piece of the solution that actually deploys the Azure resources and the dynamic, sorry, I keep saying CRM all the time. The Dynamics 365 solution that contains the different components that will allow you to not only make it work with field service itself, but also make it work with whatever solution you want to build on top of this, which is what we did. Okay, so you will just deploy that solution. Actually, if we go back to Dynamics, this is our implementation. I'll show it to you in a moment. Just wanted to show you the solution itself. And just a moment. And it's called, basically it's named as IoT connector. Okay, and this is it basically. Okay, it contains a few components in terms of the entities and a few things, IoT alert, IoT device, so several things and components that will be deployed and ready to be used. And this is all documented, and it's very well documented, so you can just make use of that. Okay. Coming back to the connectivity piece that I was just talking about, Azure IoT Hub is definitely, in this case, one of the things that the connected field service will actually deploy or set up to you. Okay, and this is really out of the box. So as soon as I hit in this screen here, I hit get it now, it will ask me for the Dynamics 365 solution that I want to deploy, and it will go through the whole deployment and create the Azure resources for you. You don't have to create them from scratch. Okay, and like I said, the most important one, or the one that actually gets in touch with your devices, will be the IoT Hub right here. Okay, and in this case, as you can see in the past hour or today, we had a few messages only. Devices had been disconnected, but out of here or directly from here, you can check which devices are installed or registered. Actually, this is one of the things that if you've done this before with Azure IoT, one of the first things you need to do is to register your device with the IoT Hub. Okay, and that's already out of the box with the connected field services solution. If you go here to this menu here, Internet of Things, as you can see, it's really agnostic to field service, and you can go to device, let's say device categories. And well, I just created a category, but let's say that I wanted to register a new device, right? And I don't really want to go to to Azure and register from there and copy the connection string and do the whole work, right? You can actually do that directly from here, and you can check the registered devices directly here, as you can see. So these are the 3 devices that are registered, and if I go and hit and create a new device, once this process ends, the first thing that's going to do is it's going to talk with Azure, register the device, and the device will be ready to be used, and then you can deploy your app, power it up, and that's it, right? You're ready to go. The deployment phase, it's really fast. Okay, let me just go back again to the presentation. I'm going to go step by step on this, and Pedro is going to complement the demo as well. And then at the very end, we're going to do it end to end so that you can see the different, all the pieces working together. Okay. This one on Stream Analytics. Actually, this is one of the major pieces on the Connected Field Services solution. Again, it is an Azure component. Okay. So the one thing that we really want to make clear is that the Connected Field Services solution kind of deploys it all for you, right? But most of these, or the Azure components are there. You can always, even if you're not implementing Dynamics 365, the Azure components are there. You can use them for any other purpose, right? The first one would be on stream analytics. So as an example, in our case as well, and as well as the connected field service setup, data lands in the Azure IoT Hub as an input to the stream analytics job, which will collect those events or data and then process them and then result in an output, right? And what could be an output? In the example of connected field services, I'll show it to you, but it's basically collecting data from the Azure IoT Hub. It will send the temperatures above a certain threshold to a certain service bus queue, and then, and I'll show it to you in the next slides, when they land in the service bus queue, you can do other stuff with it. And the other stuff will be triggered and actioned through the logic app that is also deployed in part of the solution. But I'll get back to that just in a moment. Let me just show to you very briefly again, so piece by piece, step by step, as an example. So the stream analytics job will be, and these ones are the out-of-the-box included and deployed by connected field services. Hopefully it doesn't take this. Yeah, okay. In this case, as you can see, so inputs are actually a couple of inputs, but let's say this is out of the box connected field services, but the main one will be the IoT stream. So everything coming and landing in the IoT hub will be the input for this streaming job. Let's call it the streaming job, a batch job that is running continuously, reading inputs, performing a certain query, certain action, and then dumping that to the outputs. And in this case, the output is the alerts queue. And like I said, the alerts queue, what is it? It's basically a service bus queue, okay? And what does it do in the meantime? It queries. So this is kind of, okay, I'm getting all these inputs. Do I take them all? Do I filter certain columns? Do I do other stuff with it before I actually send them to the output? And this is the out-of-the-box one, as you can see. So it's basically, you can manipulate a query in the streaming analytics job exactly like you do in SQL. You have inputs as let's call it in this case from Azure IoT as JSON. So all columns very well formatted with data, and they work as SQL tables as well. And with this, you can then define where you're going to send that data to, what will be the output. In the left hand, as you can see, these are the inputs, and this is the output. In this case, it's only an alerts queue. In our case, it was a little bit different, but I'll show it to you in a moment. There's also another stream analytics job deployed by connected field services, which will be to send all telemetry data into a SQL Azure database, which will then be kind of the target or what Power BI will consume. And then you can create your own tiles and dashboards out of that database in runtime or on a scheduled basis. Okay, so this is what's included and what would be within connected field services, and most of it, we actually made use of it to our scenario. And this is kind of summarizing what I just showed to you. Inputs in our case are the main one, bringing things to Azure and to Dynamics 365 will be the Azure IoT Hub, the readings, the telemetry, everything coming from the devices. But you can have other inputs as well, right? You could name that and bring other inputs into this process of yours and process them and generate additional outputs, and all running with that stream analytics job. The outputs in this case can be service bus queues, like I said, Azure SQL Server, Power BI, I mean, you name it, or in some cases, after the next step, Dynamics 365 itself. And then to finish, just what I said, in our case, it will be the query or the kind of the processing, the part of the center, not the input, not the output, but the query itself, you manipulate it as pure SQL. And this is a real scenario or a real query from our environment. We're just filtering and sending the readings to CRM with those columns. At the bottom part of the screen, you see this is the plain data that we are sending to CRM as device readings, temperature and all that, into Dynamics 365. Which will be, and before that, another output that we have is the SQL Azure database. So full dump everything that comes into Azure IoT Hub will be dumped into a SQL database that we can then report on it or do whatever we want with it. Actually, this is just a real screenshot from our environment. And then the last step before I actually get the data into Dynamics, right? And this is making use of logic apps. So you might have seen in the expo as well, logic apps, Power Apps, Flow. Dynamics 365 is getting more and more integrations with the Azure stack. And this is really one of the best examples that you can take advantage of, one of the, I would say, the best pieces you can take advantage to make your integration work. So messages came from the device, landed in the Azure IoT Hub, were processed by the streaming job, land a service bus queue, logic app picks it up, and creates a record in CRM. How easy that is. And all deployed and ready to be used if you just install the Connected Field Services solution and configure it. That's it. You don't have to build code just to do this, okay? I'll show that to you. I'll actually be very quick in showing you the logic app part. And so if I go here to our, logic app. And this is actually, it's actually a little bit shorter than I want, but anyway, in the right hand of the screen, you can see that, so these are the it's kind of the execution log of the logic app, and in here, in this area, the run history, what actually happened. So let's say this last one here, I just clicked it, and let me see what does it show, right? And it's very detailed, actually. So it's really a real-time execution log of what's going on in your execution flow. So like I said, the logic app that I had in the previous screen only has these 4 steps. Right? It's triggered when a message hits that queue. So and the message hits the queue because the streaming job sent that message to that queue. And then it will pick up the message from the queue. It will parse the JSON, so the message will have a container and the columns inside and the values. And then parsing those values, as you can see here, will get you the data itself, which is here, right? And then what do I do with it? Well, I actually go and create a CRM record with it. And which CRM record is actually one of these entity here. In this case, it's a custom entity that we created, but it could be a plain out-of-the-box entity. And that's it. Data is in. Okay. In this case, we're doing it for the purpose of the demo. We're doing it one by one. But for this, I mean, if you're scaling, and we only have 2 devices at the moment, but scaling and having more throughput definitely would do, or we would need to adjust the logic app here a little bit more to get more messages at a time, do a kind of a cycle to go through all of those and send them to CRM and make it more efficient. But this is basically a really easy way to set it up. And this is ours, but the out-of-the-box Connected Field Services already deploys a logic app as such, okay? Finally, the other way around. So how do I send data from Dynamics 365 down to my devices? Does Connected Field Services have that already? Yes. As simple as that. One of the things you'll find when you deploy the solution is a service endpoint registration in the solution. Let me show that to you really quick. So if you open up the plugin registration tool or the solution browser, one of the things you will find here is the service endpoint registration. And you will see this is the configuration of a service bus queue, and where you just have to set up or define the key, the access key to access that queue. But again, deploying the Connected Field Services will do that for you. Okay, it's already registered, configured. You don't need to come here and copy long URLs and paste large keys into it. Okay, it's already there. Just wanted to show that to you and make sure that you were aware of this. I'm going to hand it over to you, Pedro. Do you want to cover or talk about this one, and I can show the pieces together?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. So back to our scenario and to the smart office application. So after, this is kind of cool for people that are technically, so a lot of cool stuff, and all of this is quite easy to set up. But for the end user, it's not that exciting, right? So the end user, they will say, oh, great, you are using IoT, but what comes to my purpose, right? So then we have the analytics, and one of the things that we are using is Power BI. And
oh, yeah, okay, sorry.
Just switching to Gonçalo's machine again, what we can do is, with all of that data that we collected, we can create, for instance, Power BI dashboards and provide that information so that we can make some kind of decisions or to provide it to stakeholders, right? So that is the most important thing. That thing that Gonçalo was showing is very technically, right? How we send message across, all of that, how we handle those messages. So, but it's kind of boring for the end user, right? I get it. But then we have this part here that is, okay, we collected all of the data, we have it, so now I can have some insights, right? And this is something that we can do is, for instance, here Gonçalo is showing already the Power BI dashboard that you've seen before in Power BI. You can actually see it as well in Dynamics 365. So I can go to my, and I will explain how this works after. But right now you can see here that this is information that we are collecting from one of the devices. So you'll see there the name, 3C East. That means that this device is kept in the third floor of our building in the east wing. Okay, that's what it actually means. And then we can have some insights on what we are collecting. Okay.
Just to compliment you there, Pedro. But anyway, so Power BI in this example here, we're just consuming a simple dashboard. This is not actually not the one, but we created out of Power BI directly the dashboard and the tile. But it's actually bringing data out of that SQL database, Azure SQL database that I showed you and I told you about just a few minutes ago. And consuming this data and actually building a Power BI tile, as you might know already, you can build it and combine it from different sources, right? It's not only about this database itself. You can actually bring other data and as an example, bring other telemetry data from different sources, and again, bind it and show it directly in Dynamics 365 as well, and give that end user or technician kind of a visual of what's going on and what can he do to complete his work order or to allow him to operate and do what he needs, right? Okay, so I'm going to hand it over to you again, Pedro, to go through the other piece, more custom one that we built.
So basically, this is the information that we have. We can use it. So based out of Power BI, where we can create a lot of dashboards. And then we have, because we are using Dynamics 365, this is our line of business application. We have the same kind of analytics in Dynamics 365 itself. So if this is something that we can see, so this is the dashboard where we have all of the information. So if I'm in Dynamics 365, I'm a Dynamics 365 user, I can see all of that information as well. And what we have here is the information from the devices that we use. So we have one in 3C East, 3C West, and we have the demo as well that comes out of something that Gonçalo is going to show. And
yeah.
Giving it back to Gonçalo again.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, in our case, so and then to give you a little bit of let's say color to what I said previously. Let me just go back to the presentation. In our case, so we're collecting data from that device events or readings. Let's say the last one there, device readings. But we're also doing a little bit more, and it was really for the purpose of the presentation of the demo, which is user interactions. So I haven't showed it yet, but the user in the office can actually go there and click and say, hey, I need a service request in the room, please. Or the user can actually say, hey, I'm comfortable. There's a smiley green button there, and I'll show it to you in a moment. Or I'm not comfortable. And the device will record that and send it over as well to Dynamics 365, right? You can, thinking ahead, and we'll talk about that in the next steps, but all this data together, all these different inputs, and processed by eventually machine learning or some AI, can actually take you to that next level. Like Pedro was saying, perhaps if people in the expo were feeling cold, if they would say to someone they were feeling cold, measuring temperature, having people satisfaction at a certain point would actually adjust the temperature to a better level automatically, right? So that's just to give you an insight. But this is what we're doing and requesting. So when the device boots up, first thing it's going to do is going to send that message, give me my parameters. CRM is going to send a message down, and the parameters will be set. And all the others, I mean, a reboot, a fake reboot of the device in this case, can be forced or can be done directly from Dynamics 365. And all the other requests from device to cloud, let's call it that way, flow through in this direction. Again, what can you do with that? Process that with your business logic as well, and eventually with some users acting or working on Dynamics 365. And again, act and send data or send actions down to the devices or trigger any other business process that you have in place in Dynamics, right? And the last one there, Pedro?
Yeah. So basically back to Sophia.
Sorry? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead, sorry. Yeah.
So what we have there for the end user is a portal, right? So we build that out of a web app in Azure. One of the goals one of the things that we will try to include in the future is to have a template in portals. Portals is a solution that you can also add on top of your Dynamics 365 instance. So right now we are using a web app, but in the future we are considering using a portals that is a feature out of the box for Dynamics 365. And basically this is something that the user then can access and try to understand what we are collecting, right? Because the user needs to understand. For them, it's not important if we are using IoT or whatever. They want to see what they can get out of what we are doing. So basically, we have a web application that we've built that I'm going to show. And one of the things that we have to get, and basically you need to think that we are using this for our fellow engineers back in Portugal. So it's a building where we have a lot of engineers. And one of the things that we get to attract them to use this is the links. So we have, main page is the links that we use every day. They can get it in one page. So and that's how we get them to use. So that's how we drive the user adoption. So they have the links. That is something that we have on Dynamics, and they can request more links. So this is just something that we added on top to attract users and for them to use the application itself. It's not being used, so it's logging. This portal is also using Azure AD as the authentication. So we have seamless authentication. Then this is the landing page, and you can see there on top the temperature that you have collected by the devices that we have. So that is something that the user can log on and see, okay, what is the current temperature? Or if it's not the current, the last time that we have updated it. The other thing that we added here was we have this in Dynamics that is the forecast. So we have the temperature for today and for the next days. Why are we collecting this and adding this in Dynamics? So right now we don't have it, but the plan is to use machine learning so that we can calculate what temperature should be set. And sometimes we have a difference from one day to another one. The temperature can drop about 10 degrees, or it can go up 10 degrees or something like that. And we would like in the future to calculate what is the suitable temperature for the office, right? That's our goal. So basically we are collecting information with this. As soon as we have historical information and input from the users, when they click those buttons that Gonçalo was saying, okay, something is wrong. It's too hot, it's too cold. We want to gather all of that information, put it through machine learning, and have a way of understanding what should be the suitable temperature. And that's what is missing, like Gonçalo was saying, for instance, in the expo, because it's very cold, right? Everyone is wearing a coat. The other thing is we also added IoT to the building itself. So we have here a way of understanding where a person is located, right? So we wanted not based out of devices, but adding intelligence to the building itself. So we have something, for instance, if I quickly search,
just give me a moment, Pedro, just to finish something.
Just
in case you're in doubt, that time when it last synced is UTC.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and that's why I refreshed the page. So 7:09 p.m. UTC is actually 3:09 Florida time. Okay. So that's why I refreshed. So that device is really collecting data in real time and being updated there as well. Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you, Gonçalo. And what I did here very quickly was just looking for a person. So in this case, I looked to myself. I searched for myself, and I have here the output that is where I'm located. So I'm at a specific building, at a specific floor, and at a specific seat. And I can see that. I can search for other people, other locations. We have the buildings. So in here, this is the part where we added the intelligence to the building itself. So I have buildings. In this case, it's the building where we are based out. I have the floors. So for instance, I can select a floor. And then I have this blueprint. It's not that pretty, but that's the one that we had that will show the seats. And if I'm searching for someone, I can try to understand where that person is seated. So in this case, that's the place where I'm seated. So this is, like I mentioned before, have user adoption. So this is something that the user can see as a value, right? It's not only about, okay, we are collecting stuff, we are trying to make this place better with some KPIs and all, but it's something that they can use in their day-to-day activities as well. Okay. Yep. So then what we have as well is the connected field service. This is the architecture of connected field service. Basically, just to mention, we already went through this, but in the end, when we are collecting this information, temperature and all, we have the thresholds, and every time that we detect that something is wrong, temperature is above what is expected or below what is expected, we create a work item and someone gets a warning and someone will try to figure out what's happening. Is it a machine that is malfunctioning? Was someone that just changed something in the AC device? What happened? So this is the actions that we set.
And just to complete on that, so this is also this device simulator. This is part of the solution itself, the connected field services solution. It's a simulator. Basically, it simulates a device. You connect to it. It's reading temperature and humidity. At a certain point, if it goes a certain threshold, let's say 70 degrees Fahrenheit, it will. On the stream analytics job, it will send that message to the alerts queue in service bus, and it will create an IoT alert record in CRM and ready to have a work order, as you can see here. So in this case, this is a record created in CRM directly with that stream analytics job. And then naturally in the top, if you know Dynamics 365, there's a business process flow that really briefly and quickly you can go through and create the work order, and again, or any other record, and then again you can complete that action and send the technician to check what's going on with the device, or actually you can actually send a reboot command to the device. In this case, in the example, in the bottom you can see the message in JSON, so we can send a message to reset that thermostat or that device, and the message will be collected by that device from Azure IoT Hub. The command is processed and the reboot is performed, which is actually what's going on here. And we could show that directly, or we can show that to you in the very end. But basically, this is the out of the box connected field services solution which already includes this as an example, let's say as a setup that you can understand and make use of. And then the last one there on the work order, like I said. So if you're working with real connected field services solution, on top of that, you can complement and hook that to the rest of your business. That ends the kind of piece-by-piece demo. We're going to just do a final wrap on the scenario we achieved, and also an end-to-end demo, kind of showing the device running and the portal. Pedro, do you want to start?
So very quickly, we are running out of time. Basically, just a summary of what we discussed. So the opportunity came up with this new building that we have. We have here some pictures of the building. Some improvement areas that we identified, like room temperatures, noise levels, so that was what started this process. Then we have the solutions that we could put to use and to provide the KPIs that we were talking about, anticipate potential issues, assuring comfortable conditions. So that was what set this process started. Then this is the architecture that we have. So basically a summary of all of what Gonçalo showed, what I've shown. So what we are actually using. So we have here the Azure part with IoT Hub, Stream Analytics, Service Bus Queues, Logic Apps that will create the records in Dynamics. And then we have the web app that was what I shown. Power BI, Dynamics 365, Azure SQL Database. So that's the technology that we are using. In the future, like I mentioned, we want to use machine learning to understand what should be the temperature, right? So that's something that to calculate that, we need first to have historical data and also to have the input from the users. And then we can identify what kind of temperature should be set for each of the locations. And yeah, and Gonçalo will do an end-to-end demo now.
Yeah, very quickly. So I'm using the Windows IoT remote client. So I'm actually kind of remote desktoping to that device there, just to show you the screen. So as you can see here, so we set up in the device a few sections here to get the readings. Here, this is 3 little boxes, and then the ones with AC set temp and max temp are actually parameters that are set in the room or in the, let's say, attached to the device in Dynamics 365, and they are sent down to the device itself, right? So down here in this log text box, let's call it that way, is the execution log of the device. The device boots up, requests parameters from server, just a few seconds. Actually, in this case, it took like a little bit more than a few seconds, but it ended up receiving the message from Dynamics and set the temperature to 20, set AC temperature to 25 and max temperature to 30, right? And just below, just kind of for us to know what's going on, we kept that message counter there and the status and all that, right? As an example, we could, let's say I'm in the device in Dynamics 365. I set up a workflow actually. Sorry, let me just go back to the office then. And let's say that I'm in the building floor or in the room setup, and this one was 3C West. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to send to the device a new temperature. So I have here AC set temp 25, max temp 30 Celsius. We just set up a simple dialog, pardon. And let's say that I'm going to set it to, as an example, to 27 and 33. Okay, so this is Dynamics. Okay, and I'm going to switch back to the device immediately, just to show you, and hopefully it won't let me down. Here we go. Actually, it was pretty quick. So it went all the way through, like I said. So in Dynamics, run a workflow, or in a dialog in this case, which created a command to the device. Because I've got that connected field service component, which it actually registers as a service endpoint registration, it sends the message to the Azure Service Bus. Service Bus is an input to the Logic App, right? The Logic App then creates the message or into the Azure IoT Hub. Azure IoT Hub, the device is connected there, receives the message, processes the command, and sets the temperature, right? So this is just an example of going up and going down in this case. So device to cloud and cloud to device message. Another example would be I can actually be a user and hit the request service button there. And I could say, hopefully, yeah, requested the service, right? And if I go directly to Dynamics, actually it will take, perhaps it will take a few seconds, but let me just go back here, just a second. Device requests. Hopefully it doesn't take that long. So this is the log of requests. It didn't land yet here, but in the meantime, one of the things we could do is we could take, we can go to one of the devices, but as soon as a request comes in, and this is just simple demo logic, but we could acknowledge that request, and when it's acknowledged, again, a new message is sent down to the device, as an example. Or, as an example, we could also kind of force reboot that device, right? And let me just go there. Let's say that I'm going to reboot device. It's basically a workflow that will create a command with a certain structure and text or value. We'll go through the flow and let's call it fake reboot the device. Okay, I'm going to hit add, and then I'm going to switch back to the device again and fake reboot it, let's say. So hopefully, yeah, here we go. So all plain, all clear, and in the meantime, the reboot was received. In this case, it's already received the parameters. Well, actually, it's not, but we could definitely again follow the same thing or create a logic to have this round the loop automatically running and having it all working. And the other part was really purely to our case, right? We have buildings. In each building, we'll have floors, and floors will have seats. And in our case, to the device, we have device requests. So the reboot request, the service request, all those are, let's say, interpreted as requests and created in CRM as such. And the device readings that we showed to you previously, which will show up here. And then again, you can do dashboards, you can do Power BI, you name it in terms of having it working, right? Going back just to wrap up for Q&A, Pedro?
Yeah, so basically we are already over time. So this is basically the IT service that we are using, but we already went through most of it. So basically the next steps for us, make it quicker. So we will extend this. We saw today with the temperature, but we want to extend this to noise level, presence, like I explained, lighting, supplies, all of that. So we want to keep expanding the information that we are collecting. Also, in terms of reporting, create noise maps to understand which person should be in each locations, because we don't want rooms with too much noise and others that doesn't have that much amount of noise. So you can distribute the noise levels, statistics and all. Then we will start with machine learning. I already went through that. Portals as well. We want to, instead of using the web app from Azure in a custom portal, we want to have this already out of the box in a portal so that every customer can make use of this. We have here a little video, but we're already over time, so I would rather go straight. The resources, so basically we'll put all of this code in a Git, hub, rep, repo, but right now we are pending confirmation around this, but it will be made available on that repo. We have here these links that are useful, that are part of the deck that is available from the portal. And let's go to Q&A.
Yeah, we still have 8 minutes for Q&A, but before we go for that, really, and let me just move back. I'll leave it there for a moment. The code, the sample code, or the code we created for this purpose and for this demo as well, we're going to make it available for you soon. It's not there yet, but we're going to make it available to you soon, and you're free to come back to us if you need, in the meantime, any clarification. But again, to wrap up on what I just said in the beginning, you can really go very far just starting with connected field services, because like I said, it deploys the whole thing, and you just need to adjust and adapt what you need. You don't need to go and build a Azure aware plugin in Dynamics to call and send a message to a service bus, right? It's already there. You can deploy. The solution is free of charge. It's just deploy it and use it, right? And then change to what you need, and it's there, right? And then the rest of it, it's plain easy, as you could see, and you will have the presentation and the video, and we're free and available for any clarification, okay? So with that said, we're going to wrap for Q&A. We still have 6 minutes left, yes? No? No? 2:30? 2:15? We still have some time for questions, so feel free to raise your hand. In the end, when we're finished, feel free to come down to us, check the devices, have any other questions. Any questions to start with? Yeah, sure. If the slide deck will be available, yes. I think it's already there in the app, yes.
It's
broken. Okay, we'll fix it and we'll get it to you. Okay, well, you can come to us and we'll make it available for you, definitely. More questions, please. Yeah.
So this is great if you own your own building.
Uh-huh.
But I work for a company that actually provides services for other buildings.
Okay.
So how do we get, I mean, especially with the connected portion of it, how do you get the owner to understand that you need to be able to connect to their Wi-Fi, or you need to be able to provide some type of connectivity to these devices so that you can
Right.
proactively manage their services for them?
Yeah.
How do you get them to buy into this philosophy of doing this?
Yeah.
I'd actually argue that that's probably not, if I was in your position, I don't think I would go down that route. I would want to provide connectivity outside of your tenants' connectivity, because you don't want to be dependent on what they do or don't do. Right? Next thing you know, somebody's in, they change the rule in firewall, and your control of the building is gone. So
Good point.
I would, and there's lots of different ways to connect, right? Whether that's cellular or whatever the case, but I mean, we see a lot of people that will take a solution like this, aggregate multiple sensors within a building, or even potentially a campus, to a gateway or multiple gateways, and then have that connected again, whether you provide, physical connectivity there or wireless, or whatever the case may be, and then move that out.
Thank you.
Piggybacking on the tenants' connectivity, probably not how that's built on that.
Yeah, I mean, no, that's fine.
No,
That's
that's
fine.
fine.
That's good discussion. But I mean, it's as an example with building, right? We could do it with a factory, with any other, with a car. I mean, anything is suitable. The purpose of naturally, the topic was smart buildings, but definitely more than that, right? The idea is really to go beyond and bring your IoT scenario into your business, and in this case, into Dynamics 365, and how can you manage it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's also a good question, because it might be up to debate, right? I might want to put some 4G or 5G card in the device, and I'm not dependent on the actual network.
Yeah.
Or we can also discuss if it can be beneficial for both parts, right? So if they send me the telemetry from the machine that is at their location, I can do a better job. So for instance, if it's a vending machine, if they allow me to send the information, that I receive the information, I can be there before the stock actually runs out, right? So I can work with them so that they can understand the needs, right? So that is a good discussion, but that's something that we need to decide. If they are not up to that, then probably we can put a cellular card there, and I'm not dependent on their network. That's fine.
Or a device gateway is a good approach.
The
Exactly.
device gateway is something that we didn't touch, something that we are considering. For instance, that is very important. Instead of having, like we have here, the devices communicating with the IoT hub itself, having the devices spread around the room, right?
Yeah.
And then I have one gateway.
Yeah, exactly.
That is something similar for the rest of the folks. Something similar what happens, for instance, in a car, right? The car has several sensors, but the sensors don't communicate outside of the car, right? They communicate internally inside the car, and then the car communicates with whatever is communicating.
Yeah.
So that's how it actually works. And that's how we can expand this if it's like a very big or very large room like the expo, right? Instead of having several devices communicating, I can have several devices communicating with the gateway, and the gateway will communicate outside, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
More questions?
So you said that everything's not up on Git as of yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
You're working that. Any idea on time frame, and will that be inclusive of even the applications running on?
Yeah. I would say within a couple of weeks we should have that sorted, hopefully. But in the meantime, you can reach out to us directly, and we can get in touch with you. No problem. Yeah. And that will include the portal and the app in the device as well. No problem. Yeah.
So so
Another
basically
question there?
what we want to do is made available for everyone that can make use and change it and all that.
Yeah.
Speak a little bit to the onboarding process, like the app going around and installing these IoT devices. It seems like you need someone who's got a very round set of skills between the mechanical and contractor aspect, and then some fluency with just technology to be able to hook into the internet or Wi-Fi
Okay.
and network, and then run along to
Okay. Yeah, so the question is, or the thing is around the level of skills you need to have to set up such a device and hook it up to the cloud, right? Yeah, well, It requires a little bit, but not that much. In this case, in talking about security as an example, I mean, you can be considered of somebody can take the device away and plug it in some other place, or try to steal the device and connect it in and make use of that elsewhere. It's not. I mean, that's one of the purposes why we use the Raspberry Pi 10 with Windows IoT Core. Because it actually has TPM security, so it's really, I mean, you hook it up to with your Azure tenant. There's an encryption in it. It's connected. It's encrypted. Everything is really plain easy. As soon as you register the device, you deploy the device within my machine. I just deploy with the IoT dashboard. You provision a new device. You deploy the image. You deploy the app, and you're good to go. It's really within a few steps. You're ready to go, and I'm happy to share what those steps are.
The question is also because you need to have someone that actually knows how to handle the hardware, right? Hardware part.
Yeah. Definitely, or you can yeah, definitely it does require some skills, sure. I mean, and then it depends on if you're taking exactly what's in the wall already, or if you're kind of defining what will be on the wall to be then connected to such a device and to Azure IoT Hub in Dynamics 365. Yeah, but I'll be happy to get in touch with you. No problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So, for instance, you have a company that's already existing. Let them, we don't have this issue right now. Like Nigeria, tanks, into gas, supply gas.
Okay.
Someone has to go in and they have bad roads. Someone has to go in all the time
Yeah.
to take temperature, to pressure.
Okay.
Because they will report that to the regulatory
Okay.
authorities to ensure compliance and follow up. And so we're saying that IoT could be of help.
Definitely, yes. Yeah. The question so far is I have a very complex scenario in place in a remote location, sending data, or should be sending data, or I would like to be sending data instead of sending a technician all the time on site to collect that. And if IoT would be helpful in that case.
Yeah, so my question is,
How do you get started? That's a good point.
That's basically what we try to inspire people to do, right?
Yeah.
It's very simple. So you need to get the devices working, and the infrastructure we have already available.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
definitely. What kind of device? Definitely. I mean, we can discuss that offline if you want, no problem. But definitely the main point is around, and this is what, I mean, the core of this is Azure IoT Hub, or Azure, let's say, right? Connectivity with Azure and Azure IoT Hub. And then what sends data to Azure IoT Hub is what you're looking for, right? Thank you. Yeah, that's the question. Yeah, definitely. There are dozens and thousands, if not thousands of options and solutions for that.
Yeah.
But definitely, let's discuss that offline. I'll be happy to help.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
We have one of the links there.
Let's
the
just see if
resources. It's Windows device. If you go to windowsdevices.com, you have a lot of
Yeah.
options already. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Just
provide those
checking.
options. Yeah.
Just checking if there are any other
Yeah.
questions before we wrap up, and then we can have other questions offline.
Yeah.
Any questions in the back?
No. Okay.
No?
Thank you.
Okay,
very
thank you
much.
so much for coming. Glad to help you. Have a great rest of the event.
Thank you.